Coming up.
Given the fact that the northern cod quota could go to a level where you're going to give 5% to Nafo, to give foreign vessels the opportunity to fish, to direct for northern cod again, are you going to bring that back, those vessel patrol days back up to the standard 500 days a year?
The answer is 0.
I can assure you that.
So now, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Your previous number 4 did this, it didn't work. Number 5 tried to end it by shutting down legal fishery, it didn't work. And now you're doing the same thing, hoping for a different result. You said in your opening that the legal fishery will stay closed until you have your regulations in place. 2 weeks ago, your deputy in this committee said that will take at least 2 years. So if there is no fisheries minister number 7 and you remain in place, is it going to be at least 2 years before this fishery opens?
I want some yes or no answers. Will you commit to not cutting fisheries management science funding?
No.
Yes or no?
This guy's garage. Like and subscribe.
Last year, through the chair, the logbook data for northern cod was not analyzed. When was the last time that the catch rate data for northern cod, per unit data from the logbooks, was analyzed?
We'll have to come back to you. I can't answer.
Okay, so I submitted an order paper question in October. Fishermen's logbook data to give per unit catch rates for northern cod have not been analyzed since 2019. Now, I was told that it would be all analyzed for the assessment. So how, if you had 4 years and it wasn't analyzed in 4 years, it wasn't analyzed as of October, how is that data going to be available to be used in this year's stock assessment in three short months?
On the survey, we've had the science discussion.
No,
so
this is the logbooks that the fishermen take their time to fill out as accurately as they can. Mm-hmm. Why is that data not important to DFO? Do you not trust the fishermen? Do you not have enough budget with the 50% increase that you've had since 2015? Or sorry, doubled the budget, 50% more employees, yet logbook data that's 4 years old that could have helped last year to give an increase in the quota because the Ground Fish Council wanted a 17,000 ton quota, the FFAW asked for 25,000 tons, yet you're sitting on that data not tabulated, and the fishermen know, DFO ground level people back home know, they tell me, they know that there's the northern cod is quite plentiful based on the catch rates. Why is that not, has that not been used in setting up the quotas, and that since the cods come out of the critical zone in 2016?
Mr. Chair, we do use various sources of data to provide our stock assessments, and so I will come back on the specific question of the use of this particular data series.
So, last year, the vessel patrol days on the nose and tail of the banks was less than half of what it would be in a normal year. Will you commit to bringing those patrol days back up, especially given the fact that the northern cod quota could go to a level where you're going to give 5% to Nafo, to give foreign vessels the opportunity to fish, to direct for northern cod again? Are you going to bring that back, those vessel patrol days back up to the standard 500 days a year?
Look, I just completed a tour of the United States where I had the opportunity to meet with the Coast Guard, the U.S. Coast Guard, and we made sure to actually work in a collaborative way to make sure that we can protect our borders from illegal fisheries. So there's important work that needs to be done, the U.S. and Canada together, to make sure that we protect our borders and also to protect ourselves against illegal fisheries.
I'll turn my time over to Mr. Arnold now.
Thank you, Mr. Spall. Thank you for being here, Minister. Minister, your department was a funding partner of BC's invasive mussel defense program that inspects watercrafts at BC's borders. But you allowed that funding to lapse last year, and that decision has directly weakened the most effective protection of BC's waters against aquatic invasive species, especially zebra and quagga mussels. In 2022, your government supported the BC Mussel Defense Program with $475,000. This was completely cut in 2023, and for 2024, you have announced only $90,000 for the program, a reduction of over 80%. Why has your government abandoned BC's invasive mussel defense program?
Je vous remercie pour votre question.
Thank you for the question. In fact, I can tell you that Madame Baron sent me a letter last March 7th, and our department, we announced last February additional funding in the fight against these two zebra and quagga mussels, so funding of over $500,000, which I think is a step in the right direction, but we need to work to continue to do our work together to fight these invasive species that are truly problematic all around the country. Of course, the zebra mussel is one of these species.
You must be aware of the costs in Ontario lakes. The British Columbia government did a study estimating that it could be up to $120 million for the province just in annual maintenance costs. Why are you continuing to expose BC taxpayers to these permanent costs and damages that could be prevented with a strong preventative defense program?
Écoutez,
Listen, there is money that is being allocated for invasive species. I can tell you that the zebra mussel is found all over Canada, in lakes, in our
It's not all over
at the
important qui se fait.
There's important work that is being done as to the various species, and I can ask the Deputy Minister to provide further detail.
We
Okay,
use
time has gone a little bit over, Mr. Arnold. We'll now go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister. Liberal Fisheries number 4, who I defeated in the 2021 election, in 2020 did a complete moratorium, as you have done, on the Alver fishery. In 2021, how much did poaching decline as a result? Am I getting extra time? Well, I can't wait for the translation for a minute. Come on.
Ben écoutez, j'aimerais, Monsieur Perkins, j'aimerais peut-être avant de répondre à votre question.
Mr. Perkins, before I respond to your question, I'm wondering if you've had time to discuss these issues with the colleagues from Toronto to defend the lobster industry that is so important for the East Coast.
Minister number 5, your predecessor, 18 days into last year's season, closed the fishery. After the 18 days, how much did poaching go down? Simple question. Apparently it didn't go down after the fisheries and minister number 4. How about number 5?
Ce que je peux vous dire, c'est que
What I can tell you is that in the last week and a half, there have been 34 arrests. And personally, I can tell you from the time that I've come into office, I can assure you that Madam Murray did the best possible job to try to prevent this Alver fishery.
Last year, on 120 days of illegal fishing on 300 rivers with thousands and thousands of harvesters. How many charges were laid?
puis je suis très contente.
I'm quite pleased to say that I was in Portland and we went to see, because our colleagues in Portland have been working on this over the last 10 years. They were there to see what the best.
The answer is zero.
I can assure you that.
So now, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Your previous number 4 did this, it didn't work. Number 5 tried to end it by shutting down legal fishery, it didn't work. And now you're doing the same thing, hoping for a different result. It just sounds crazy. So tell me, you said in your opening that the legal fishery will stay closed until you have your regulations in place. 2 weeks ago, your deputy in this committee said that will take at least 2 years. So if there is no fisheries minister number 7 and you remain in place, is it going to be at least 2 years before this fishery opens?
Oui.
I'll defer to my officials. The deputy minister can answer, but rest assured that the fishery will be open, as far as I'm concerned, will be open in 2025. There will be regulations, and I certainly hope you will defend the lobster industry, because honestly, it's shameful for the East Coast, for the Gaspé, and for the Maritimes. So please speak to your colleagues, because it creates jobs in our
Poachers over legal harvesters and putting 1,000 families out of work while bragging at the Boston Seafood Show that somehow you're defending the fishery when all you're defending is poachers. And the deputy didn't come here to testify, you did. I expect you to answer questions.
You've heard what I did say at the beginning of my opening statement, which is that we're going to make sure that we have a responsible fishery, one that is safe.
Turn it over to you, since I can't seem to get any answers out of the minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Minister, just have one question. Obviously, one of the primary roles of the Minister of Fisheries knows is to hear from the stakeholders and the harvesters and those who will be most affected by your decisions. I think the input that we've been hearing at studies and at this committee for a long period of time has been very clear, and they feel like the government has not been hearing or responding to their direct input and advice. And one such example is that over the last 8 years under this government, they have hired no less than 400 additional HR employees and roughly only a net of 60 new enforcement officers these past 8 years, according to the Conservation and Protection Agency. That is an absolute indictment on the government and missing the priority. Do you have any answer to that?
What I can tell you is that we hired 101 new officers, enforcement officers.
I don't think that matches the priorities of the harvesters.
Your time is up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Hardy mentioned earlier about basically reports coming out of this committee, and it seems to us that they're collecting dust. Well, we've had the mackerel report that was completed last year, and the pinniped report. And you recently said, Madam Minister, that seal meat would become the new lobster, so I guess you've been hopping on the marketing plan. What government departments have, because it also recommended a whole of government approach to developing markets. Can you name the government departments that you've worked with so far? Because marketing was identified as the most needed thing to bring back a viable sealing industry. Which government departments? Just name the departments, please.
As I've said, as soon as I took office as a minister, it was a part of my priorities.
Just like the name of the departments that you've engaged so far in helping to develop markets, please.
I have discussions with Minister Ng. I had discussions with Minister Ng. Mary Ng.
Thank you. Well, I hope she's helping you out. She needs to. When is the crab management, Madam Minister, when is the crab management plan coming down? The fishery in Newfoundland and Labrador is 10 days away. When can we expect the crab management plan in Newfoundland, Labrador waters? May?
Bientôt.
Soon.
Soon. Okay, hopefully it's within 10 days. Well, I've got a little with the budget cuts that's been requested of your department, 15 billion to be shared amongst everybody, I guess, by Minister Freeland in the fall. I want some yes or no answers. Will you commit to not cutting fisheries management science funding?
No.
Yes or no?
I will come back to you to be absolutely sure, because I don't want to
Okay.
mislead the committee.
Thank you.
I don't believe there are impacts.
Will you commit to not cutting DFO enforcement funding?
There is no impact to enforcement funding.
Will you commit to not cutting small craft harbors funding?
Écoutez, je peux vous...
Look, I can tell you, it would be hard to do worse than the cutbacks that the Conservatives brought down.
My questioning, I'm turning it over to my colleague. Mr. Arnold, have at her. Have at her, Mr.
Thank you,
Arnold.
Mr. Spall. Very quickly, Madam Speaker, or Madam Minister, I'd like to inform you that at this point, zebra and quagga mussels are not all over Canada, at least not that we know of, contrary to what you said earlier in the meeting. We need prevention programs in place that your department has been cutting funding to. Why do you continue to ignore the threats of aquatic invasive species, especially zebra and quagga mussels, and the risks that they pose to fish populations, including wild salmon and ecosystems in British Columbia and Western Canada?
Comme je vous l'ai mentionné,
As I mentioned to you, we have allocated funds in British Columbia, February 14th, as specifically for zebra mussels and the quagga mussel. We're talking about more than $500,000 for that. So that is a step in the right direction. Should we do better, more? Yes. We need to continue to work at this because invasive species, you see it with the green crab, the lamprey, mussels, and there's going to be work that needs to be done. Education, raising awareness among the public.
Thank you, Minister, for appearing before the committee again today.